Oh, they'll never forget the day Emmitt Smith ran 32 times for 170 yards, caught 10 balls for 62, and he did most of it with one arm.
That performance of Will, that performance of bringing it when it was all on the line.
I think that game was kind of a benchmark for him.
That game is the game that defines him, the game that defines his career.
I think without me, they were good, but with me, they were great.
You get to mid-season there, and I mean, it's pretty evident that something's got to happen.
Forget 17 points. We're going to shut people down.
We did not want to play. Cleveland didn't want to play. It was a lousy game. Should have never played it.
The gist of the conversation was, today, a good man, a great coach is getting fired because of y'all.
It was a typical January day in New Jersey. It was awful.
It was windy. It was cold weather.
That was a big game.
We had so much at stake. We had so much on the line.
Winner of the game wins the NFC East, gets home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Baby, you're beatable!
It's something about the Giants that brought out the best in Emmitt.
The runner was the guy that everybody was targeting each week. I think teams came into games against the Cowboys saying, we got to stop number 22.
That's what we talked about the whole week, was stopping Emmitt, slowing the running game down.
But the identity of that football team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, was a ground and pound, get the ball to Emmitt and run the ball downhill.
Emmitt liked to kick that ball in his hands and get upfield.
And Emmitt Smith.
I never thought about hurting him. I just thought about falling on him, making him feel the presence of me being there.
Smith is down. Emmitt Smith is down at the Giants' 30.
And instantly I felt pain. And so I knew something was wrong.
Brad, the Cowboys are back on top of the mountain now. They were there in the 70s, fell off in the 80s. They're back on top now, and they should stay there a while.
So the Cowboys win the Super Bowl after that 92 season. They're going into 93, and not just Emmitt needed a contract. They had a bunch of stars on that team that needed contracts, but Emmitt was the guy, and in the players' mind, they needed him to be able to win. And it wasn't a holdout. He needed a contract, so he wasn't holding out. They were just trying to negotiate.
I never thought Emmitt was holding out. As a matter of fact, I don't even know technically we had that type of term at that time.
So I had a 4-year deal that converted to a 3-year deal that would have put me in the free agency market after 3 years. That's what set everything up. And so what happened during that time frame, and people may not remember this, the collective bargaining agreement actually came about. And they set a limit. And the limit was 4 years. And so, and if you were stuck in that 1-year window, then they classified it as a restricted free agent. There was a 30-day window for free agency to take place for all restricted free agents. And so, and you can negotiate with all the teams.
He was never going anywhere else. The Cowboys were always going to get him signed. It was a matter of how much.
Well, during that 30-day period, to my surprise, not one team called me. Not one team actually called me. And you're talking about after leading all rookies in rushing, becoming a Pro Bowler in 1990, leading the league in rushing in 91, and becoming a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro in 92, and going to the Super Bowl and winning our very first Super Bowl. So I'm coming off of a Super Bowl year. Here I am, excited about being not only a free agent and not only that, but proving myself to the industry. And it didn't quite work out that way. I even went to Don Shula and asked Don Shula to sign me to a deal, and he said he couldn't do it because if he did, Jerry Jones was going to trump the deal or come in and do exactly, and he didn't want to mess up his roster guys and want his team, his players to see that he offered me this kind of money and they didn't get this kind of money, all kinds of drama.
But I could tell he couldn't mask it. Even though we weren't face-to-face a lot, I could tell how badly he wanted to be with the team.
And so I was unemployed, and I couldn't go sign with anyone else. The only team I could negotiate with was the Dallas Cowboys. And if you can imagine not having leverage when you're negotiating against a guy like Jerry Jones, it's not quite that easy.
You know, everybody knew what our identity was back then. You know, it was very similar to what the Cowboys are today. We were a run-first team. So not to have him in the lineup those first 2 weeks, we're completely different. We're not the same team without Emmitt in the lineup.
We started out the 93 season without Emmitt, obviously the first 2 games. And there was a lot of pressure and tension within the organization, within the players and so forth to make sure he got under contract and came back.
We lose against the Redskins and then turn around the next week. We lose against the Buffalo Bills at Texas Stadium. That sucked, watching that.
I remember distinctly Charles Haley putting his helmet through the wall after the second game and telling Jerry, get 22 in here. And I think it was very clear that was the sentiment of the whole team.
Things just got out of hand. I think it went down a path where it should have never gone.
After months of haggling over millions of dollars, Emmitt Smith has gotten pretty much what he wanted from Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, that being Thurman Thomas type money. Emmitt has agreed to a 4-year, $13.6 million contract, which we understand includes a $4 million loan being called a signing bonus. The $13.6 over 4 years averages $25,000 more than Mr. Thomas's deal, making him the highest paid running back in all of football. And it all became official about 45 minutes ago at Texas Stadium when Emmitt and Jerry signed the contract, plus Emmitt got his $4 million bonus check. The only problem? Well, the first pen they had really didn't work. Kind of symbolic of this relationship before tonight, but now it's a done deal thanks to a lot of negotiations over the last 24 hours.
We came to a compromise. We all know that Emmitt would have liked more money, and I would have liked to have paid less money. We came to a compromise. That's the way that it worked.
I never based any negotiation on win or loss records at all. I basically based on, like he said, like the gentleman said earlier, basically out of what I have accomplished in the league and the way I feel like I should be paid.
But the thing that I remember the most about it was how really high level and how creditable his negotiation was. It was pure and simple. He felt he could bring that much to the table for us winning championships.
Sorry, got in the season a little bit late, but I think we can put this thing together and go on and win it all.
So after they get Emmitt back, they go on a streak, and they're 7-2, and it looks like here are the Cowboys. Well, they go to Atlanta, and he pulls a hamstring early in the game. They lose that. They come home on Thanksgiving, and they lose that crazy game with the Leon Lett fumble, the field goal, the sleet, the snow, and now you're sitting there at 7-4.
And the way we lost that game, it was heartbreaking. But going back into that locker room and having the confidence, having our coaching staff, especially led by Jimmy, to come in and say, hey, listen, we have to win out to get there. And the words would always come to mind is, we got to be the beast in the East.
He said, if you can hang by your nads for about the next 4 weeks, we'll be where we want to be at. Just like that. And made it very plain and simple. I mean, but if we went out, we still would be where we need to be at. And so we went on another run, and we found ourselves in New York City, January the 2nd.
We knew we were a better team than the New York Giants. We knew we had the makeup, the personnel to win games on the road in hostile environments, and then going up to New York, hey, it's one game and you got to win it.
What was at stake in the Giants game in the last game of the regular season that year? It couldn't have been bigger. It couldn't have been bigger.
You gotta be big to play in big games.
Yeah, big players play in big games.
Hey, turnovers a touchdown, and you take it over to the house.
This is our first Super Bowl.
We were going to get home field advantage if we won. We were going to get the bye if we won. If we lost, obviously, it was going to be a long road to get to the Super Bowl, and our guys realized that.
Neither team wanted to have to play that wild card game. Both teams wanted to have the rest, you know, in those days, and it was just a winner take all.
The new year is just 37 hours old, yet the game of the year has already arrived. Traditionally, the Super Bowl comes after the playoffs, but oftentimes tradition takes a backseat to reality. Today's victor will have the upper hand on the road to the championship. The loser's path will be far more difficult. So while some of us are still sorting out how to implement our New Year's resolutions, the Cowboys and the Giants are going to waste no time realizing theirs. They'll play their own Super Bowl this afternoon.
It was one of those days where you knew it started out so well for us.
Aikman to throw it again. Michael Irvin. Irvin stays on his feet and gets to the Giant 40 and a half. Greg Jackson was the defender. Has his tight end, Aaron Pierce. Fumble. And I think the Giants got it back. It's going to be shaky.
From the signs, it looks like the
Dallas got it back.
Oh, yeah, we was rolling. We was getting ready to get with the Giants.
Kevin Williams in the slot. Flag on the play. Aikman gets it to Emmitt Smith. Smith all the way down to about the 17. Second and goal at the 5. Aikman to throw it. Touchdown. Emmitt Smith.
We have a play called, I think it's called draw trap. And we had the right defense, 6 in the box. Obviously everybody spread out the way it needed to be. Come up inside, Nate get his nice kick out on the right side.
We were big guys. People say we weren't mobile. We could trap, we could do all of these things, but our strength was getting on people.
Off to the races outside, get past the safety, and then I'm up and running.
And Emmitt Smith.
And Greg Jackson coming up on my left side.
And when he broke through the middle and went wide right, I just remembering, you know, I have to chase him. I have to run him down. I have to run him down.
I get wrestled down in a funny way.
First thing I thought about was taking him to the ground and just falling on him. I never thought about hurting him. I just thought about falling on him, making him feel the presence of me being there.
And when I landed awkwardly, and I don't know what happened, but the shoulder pops up and something just didn't feel right. And instantly I felt pain. And so I knew something was wrong.
Third down and a long 2, and Aikman with a draw to Smith, coming right first down, 25 to 30, a lot of room at the 40, chased at the 40 of the Giants, and hauled down at the 35 with a minute 58 remaining to be played, and Smith is down. Emmitt Smith is down at the Giants' 30.
When he got tackled and landed all of his weight on that shoulder and had immediate pain.
I just heard him grunt a little bit as I got up, and it was bad that he got hurt, but it was really good for us as a defense because we thought he was out for that game.
I got up, walked off the field, and as I was walking, I was able to move my arm a little bit, so I felt like, okay, it's not broken. By the time we get to the sideline, they doing all of the feeling and touching and everything. Then they said, we got to take you inside. I'm like, okay, so we go inside. This is right before halftime.
We all know who we are without him in the lineup, and it's like, wow, this is gonna be tough.
Kevin O'Neill, our head trainer, and Buck Buchanan had walked in with Emmitt at the end of the first half, obviously to scope out the injury, see what it was, see if he was going to be able to play or not.
They taking my shoulder pads off, and it's hard for my shoulder pads to come off because I can barely lift my arm. And they give me some x-rays. I'm laying down, and the x-rays come back. Evan comes over and says, listen, okay, here's the deal. You have what we call a grade 2 or grade 3 separation.
I told him, you know, my understanding of the injury, the best that I knew it.
He said, I don't need to tell you how important this game, and we need you in this game.
I couldn't tell him that he couldn't make it worse, but I thought the chances were small that, if he could endure the discomfort, that I thought, he could potentially play with it. Some of that was going to have to come from him and how he felt.
If you choose to continue to play, you're going to be in pain. But you cannot hurt your shoulder any worse than what it is now.
When you have time, you make a more custom pad out of something called orthoplast. But in the middle of the game, you're looking for a quick fix to see if you can protect it better and see if the guy has a chance to play.
He basically cut a hole in the center of this knee pad and basically double or triple layered it, if I'm not mistaken, with some two-way tape to give it just a little bit more thickness on it.
The donut is going to serve as a cushion underneath your shoulder pads. And that should do it. That's about all we can do. I said, okay. He said, the rest is going to be on you.
Here comes Emmitt Smith with that extra padding in place inside his shoulder pads.
Emmitt Smith is ready to go back into the game. According to the team doctor, Dr. Robert Vandermeer, he has sprained his right shoulder. It's the AC joint, which is between the collarbone and the shoulder blade. Dr. Vandermeer said it needs ice and rest, but he'll have to get that after the game.
When Emmitt went down, I think the spirits were obviously, up for us. And then when he came back in, I think they went a little further down because you didn't really think he was coming back for sure.
Norv says, we're going to use you. We want you to line up. We're going to use you as a decoy. We want people, and Michael said the same thing, dog, just line up back in the back just to give them the thought that we're going to run the ball.
The players were basically telling, Emmitt, well, just go out there and you can be a decoy. And they'll think we're handing you the ball, and we won't hand you the ball very much. And I think, if I remember correctly, Emmitt said, if I'm out on the field, I ain't no decoy. You give me the football.
And Emmitt Smith gets his first carry in the second half and gets good yardage. Emmitt Smith swung out of bounds. Picks up a Dallas first down, a gain of 12. Greg Jackson threw him out of bounds.
What we did say is that he's hurt, so we're going to try to hit him a little harder. But lo and behold, it didn't help at all.
We're going to have to run the ball, throw the ball underneath, and he was going to be a big part of that. And he gets hurt in the game, and that didn't change. He kept coming in and out of the game. He's holding his shoulder. We all know he's banged up, but we continued giving him the ball. We continued throwing the ball. He continued to carry the load, and obviously made a huge difference in the outcome of that game.
Doesn't take much of a block for Emmitt. Healthy or otherwise, he gets another carry. Smith hammered.
We were very surprised. And the first thing we thought about when he came back, he wasn't going to be the same guy when he came back. And we felt there was a huge amount of confidence on our defensive side. Emmitt was out of the game, and once he came back, we said, he's not going to be the same guy. The first thing we need to do is go after that shoulder.
When I look back at the film, seeing the Giants just pile on me as I'm on the ground and seeing my body get contorted in all kinds of ways and everything, and it was painful.
Aikman to throw it. Outside to Smith.
Emmitt tell us, hey man, my shoulder hurt, they're gonna give me this ball. And every time I run the ball, y'all run downfield and help me up because I ain't gonna be able to get up. And he looked at me and I said, man, you all right? You gonna be all right? Okay, let's go. I said, we got you, bro. We got you.
And Troy called him the huddle. He's in there, and it seemed like everything just got quiet. He looked at me and said, E, you okay? I said, yeah, Troy, just call a play. And he called a play, and we break the huddle, boom.
Here's Smith again. Over the left side, Smith scored the only touchdown. That was on a pass reception.
One of the things that I think people forget, the ball's going to be carried on one side. You're not going to be able to switch hands, and he didn't switch a whole lot.
I couldn't fight. I couldn't fight people off. I couldn't defend myself in that regard. I mean, there were times where I would do stuff like this, but it wasn't like I was able to stiff arm somebody, and I couldn't do nothing but just run and just cover up the ball. And so whenever I got in a tight situation, I just tried to protect the football. That was the expectation. The expectation was under a Jimmy Johnson football team, we were going to be tough as nails. And you're going to get banged up, but you better be out there on that football field. And Emmitt wouldn't have had it any other way. There's a reason why he willed himself back out there to play, because he knew how big that game was, not only for himself, but for the rest of this team to win that football game and then have that bye week. So, it was a huge moment, but at the same time, that's the expectation. That's what I expected from Emmitt Smith, to get out there and will himself through that.
It's really hard sometimes to tell that you are seeing history made. But that's one of those times you can look at that. Now, they've just won in '92, so you know what they're capable of. But you can look at that and see how they're responding to him and how he's responding to the challenge. And you can look at that right happen in front of your face and say, oh, okay, this is not just another game. Let's everybody try to take a snapshot of this and hold on to it.
It was a great football game. We took control of the game early. We had 10-0, and then it was a dogfight.
They're up 10-0. He suffers the shoulder injury, and the Giants kind of got some momentum going.
Punt is partially blocked. Williams hits it, and the Giants get it back. Punch, touchdown for David Treadwell. And Treadwell's kick is good. It's 13-13.
And suddenly you got a tie ball game, right?
And I mean, every time I hit, it felt like knuckles was popping in my chest. I bruised my sternum at the same time. And so this went on, and they started throwing me the ball. I'm catching the ball, I'm running up, I'm getting thrown to the ground. It just went on and on and on for 2.5 quarters. And the Giants kept coming back, and then all of a sudden they tied the game.
They're just going to run it out and send it into overtime.
Well, I remember that whole sequence. You're on the sidelines, you have a little bit of time before the overtime, the coin flip. I remember those discussions. The coaches were talking about what they wanted to do there.
Hey, we win this toss. We're taking the win. We're not taking the ball. Everybody's good with that, right? So when it does happen, boom, there you go.
In overtime, the rules at the time, kick a field goal the first possession, you win the game. Yeah, you want the ball. If you don't have the ball, buckle up.
I don't know if there's ever been another one with a game of that magnitude where you go to overtime and you would give the ball to your opposition to start overtime. But the wind was a factor that day at the Meadowlands.
This is the head, this is the tail. Visitor will call the toss, call it in the air. Tails is the call. It's heads. The Giants win the toss. You want the football.
We didn't even have to. The Giants made it easy for us.
And again, the ball blows off the tee.
We just set an NFL record, Pat, for balls and blowing off tees.
We felt like the wind, because I can remember talking to Dan about that, we felt like it died down a little bit, and we felt like we could move the ball on them enough to where we could flip field position, and obviously that didn't happen.
Everybody was on side that time. Here's Sims, and he's going to take off, and he's going to be downed at the 30. Darren Woodson.
Our defense did a great job stopping the Giants. You get good field position, you got the wind behind you, and then I don't think there was any question where we were going with the ball.
Here's Aikman. Drops it to Smith. Stopped short of the first down.
Emmitt's performance in overtime was sort of magical.
Aikman gives to Smith. Smith lunges underneath tacklers for about 3. Here's Aikman. Drops it to Smith. Stopped short of the first down by Corey Miller.
You know, Smith may only have one arm, but they're still going to him.
Emmett lives for moments like that. I mean, he really does. That's what he likes the best. Because he knows at that point the spotlight's on him. Can I do it now? Everybody's looking. Everybody's got these expectations. Can I still go out and perform? And he did. And then he put the team on his back. That's what drives him. That whole chip on the shoulder thing, man, he never let it go. And that's what drives him. That's what drives him. And that's what drove him.
Aikman will throw it. Gets it out to Emmitt Smith, and he'll have the Dallas first down out to the 30, out to the 44. Talk about your tough guys. There's one.
Caught a couple of swing routes out in the flat, picking up 3, 4, 5 yards here and there. Got a couple carries inside that turned out to be pretty decent runs as well.
I remember that we couldn't stop him when it got to that point. And, you know, and the first thing, when you're a defensive back, the first thing you think about is that, you know, when is our defensive line, our front seven is going to slow this guy down? Because we got to make a lot of open field tackles on this guy.
Here's Aikman to Emmitt Smith. Smith short of the first down by about a yard. 1st and 10, Novacek was the man in motion. Here's Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith hammers inside the 25. Stopped by Guyton.
But we knew that if we could get it to the point where the game was in Eddie Murray's hands, that we were going to win that game.
We called him Eddie Money. Eddie Money. If anybody's going to make it, we called him Eddie Money. Kevin Golden gave him the name, Eddie Money.
Here we go. 41 yards. Good snap. The hold is up. The kick's on the way. Cowboys win. Cowboys win.
What a great game.
God bless you, Eddie Murray.
I couldn't even really celebrate. I was just so happy that the game was over. To see that ball go through and see everybody jumping around, I was like, thank God it's over.
For guys to overcome so many different things in that game, to win that hard-fought game in overtime, and then to say, okay, now we have a bye, we're gonna host these playoff games, we got a real shot to go win this thing again. I think everybody was pretty excited.
Look over there. All right, Gunny.
5 weeks ago, or 6 weeks ago, we had a little meeting after Thanksgiving and we said this. If you lay it on the line and you win out, you'll win the division 2nd year in a row, and that'll give us a hell of a shot to get to where we want to go.
As soon as I get out of that uniform, oh my gosh. The pain was so intense. Oh my gosh, I almost fainted. But I was in the locker room a long time. And it took a while for me to be able to calm down because I was spasming in the chest too as well. And I think it was more the spasms that felt that put pressure on my AC joint and my chest and my sternum. And so it felt almost like as if he was having a heart attack.
Emmitt was in a lot of pain after the game, and we laid him down and tried to ice it and just let everything calm down for a minute before we did anything to, you know, start to get him ready for the travels home.
We've seen Emmitt Smith empty his tank before, and he really emptied it today.
And it was during that time that Coach Madden came down to the dressing room and you know, tried to talk to Emmitt.
Got to get under those shoulder pads today and see who gets paid too much money. This is what great players get paid a lot of money for.
Yeah, I remember Madden coming in. I'm laying in the training room on the table, and just laying there with ice pack on, I believe, and icing it down. And Madden walks in, and I was shocked to see John come in. He's talking to Kevin, and Kevin giving him the scoop.
And I remember telling Coach Madden, I said, hey, Coach, I know he may not appreciate right now that you came all the way down from the press box, but I think someday in the future he will.
And he comes over to me and grab my hand and say, man, that was the gutsiest performance I've ever seen in my life. Then we get on the plane, take off. Everybody's excited, having a good time. I can't have a good time. And I actually fall asleep. Then in the middle of the flight, I wake up in a panic. I don't know why, but my spasms are happening in my chest. I feel like I'm having a heart attack. My heart is racing. My shoulder is throbbing. And I'm panicking. And I fall back off to sleep. And then about halfway through the flight, I think, because I'll never forget this, I wake up in a panic again. And then Kevin O'Neill, they strapping me down. Kevin O'Neill says, listen, we're flying over Memphis right now. Do you want us to land this plane and get you into a hospital? And I can recall saying to Kevin, no, if I'm gonna die, let me die in Dallas.
It didn't magically just disappear, Emmitt's injury.
I know how sore he was that next week, and I think having that extra week was the biggest blessing towards us getting a shot at that Super Bowl, because I'm not sure we would have had him the next week. And for those that may not remember, I mean, Jimmy didn't travel with a heavy roster of running backs. You know, there's a lot of games we had 3 running backs active for the game. And so, you know, he was a critical piece of our puzzle, no doubt.
I tried to play the Green Bay game without any medication at all. I didn't want to take a shot. You can give me a pill or something like that, I'm good. I'm gonna go ahead and try to play this game. And I don't know what kind of, Kevin O'Neill told me, he warned me in the Green Bay game, he said, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna hurt. First carry, I get out there, they toss me the ball to the right side, I pick up about 6-7 yards, boom, get hit. Get up, I'm like, okay, I can make it. They call a sweep play to the other side, and I go up inside, pow, I get hit. And kept on going until the second quarter where Bryce Pup caught me on the wrong side on the blocking and hit me. And that was it. I couldn't blink. Thank goodness the game we were rolling pretty good. Troy and Michael and everyone else was having a great game, and we got ahead of Green Bay. We ended up winning the game. Now going into the San Francisco game, I'm like, shoot, I ain't going through that no more. Doc said, you want a shot? Yes, I do.
And a handoff to Smith coming right behind. Easy touchdown, Emmitt Smith.
NFC Championship game, one game before the Super Bowl? Oh yes, give me a shot. Shoot it up. He gave me a shot, went out there, and it was on. I did not realize how well that shot would make my arm feel.
Long count, Aikman, 5-step drop over the middle, wide open, Smith, touchdown.
So here we are again, same time next year. The Dallas Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl, last game of the year, why not? Shoot me, Doc, this is the last one. I made it through the other one, I can make it through this one too. Give me a shot, boom, let's go play. We didn't run the ball a whole lot in the first half, but that third quarter, at halftime, Jimmy came in, Noah came in, and they said, we're gonna run the ball. I'm like, okay, I'm ready. And man, my boys, when they told my linemen that they were gonna run the rock, you could hear them all getting excited. I'm getting excited. James Washington get the big turnover to start the second half off.
Kelly with an inside handoff to Thomas, and he's knocked down, and a fumble. And the Cowboys pick it up, and here comes James Washington to the 30, to the 20, cutting right. Waits for a convoy to the 15. Washington to the 5. James Washington, touchdown Cowboys.
We get the ball after they go 1, 2, 3 and out, and they punted us. We call like 2 plays, slant and power. slant and power, slant and power, and it was on and popping. I was geeked up, ready to go all downhill, and every chance I got the ball, if you notice, I did not bounce not one thing. I stayed right in between the tackles. And when I got there, I went straight north, and it was on. I was about to allow Buffalo to feel my pain.
Aikman draw to Smith. Tackled but breaks away to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Emmitt Smith. Oh, what a run by the league's MVP.
That sums up the whole entire year. The whole entire year. Free agency, missing that opportunity to become a free agent, a true free agent. Missing the first 2 games of the year. Going through what we went through, losing the Atlanta game, getting dinged up in that game, losing the Thanksgiving game, playing in the Giants game, and hurting your shoulders and still performing at a level that's really unimaginable under those circumstances. And bouncing back and getting in the playoff and performing, then you're in the Super Bowl and you close it out. Your team is able to close it out that way. Shoot. Yeah. That wraps up everything. That says, yeah, I'm legit. I am legit. Don't make no bones about it. I am legit.
Emmitt Smith has been named Super Bowl Most Valuable Player. They started 0-2. They were in deep ruts. They had injuries. They had holdouts. Everybody said they couldn't do it. Well, guess what? Dallas, your Cowboys are still champions.
If we would have lost that game, that would have totally shook this team up. Totally shook the team up. To not be able to close that game in New York with the personnel that we had and the confidence that we had, I think it would have really cracked the confidence of our football team.
I've never thought of that. I've never thought, the what if on that scenario. And that's interesting. That's interesting if the dynasty still maintains its momentum at that point.
Obviously, it would have been much more difficult for us to win that second Super Bowl had we not won that game.
They'll tell you if they didn't have that bye, didn't matter if they made the playoffs, they were going nowhere. And that was really as close to, when you talk about must win, that for that team that year, that was must win.
I think it's a hard question to answer. It's a hypothetical, but I wouldn't have bet against those teams.
This is not the team of the 90s. If we don't win that game in New York, we don't go on to the Super Bowl to win that, we're not the team of the 90s.
Maybe not. We don't know. I can't play the what if game. I could definitely play the for certain game now.
That if you ask him what his best game is, he'll tell you that one. And it's because it shows every facet of his game. It's about performing, but it's also about courage. It's also about toughness. It's also about doing it on the biggest stage in the important games.
There was a whole new respect for Emmitt, for what he did for the team that particular day to put them in a position to win back-to-back Super Bowls, and obviously 3 of the 4 in 4 years.
I just think that, if there's been one thing that I learned about Emmitt Smith was that his mental fortitude was just unmatched.
Has to be one of the great ones of anything I can remember in sports, and certainly is right there as to anything we've had happen with the Cowboys since we've been a part of the Cowboys.
Those are the moments that players will tell you. Those are the things that you play for. Those are the moments that you live for. To be just any kind of a part of a thing like that, it just makes you feel alive.
There are times in a person's career where you have a moment that defines who you are. And that was that moment for me. That moment sums up the player that I thought I was and the player that everybody did not know.
Oh, they'll never forget the day Emmitt Smith ran 32 times for 170 yards, and he did most of it with one arm. Handoff, Smith at left guard, 35, 40-yard line. That should do it. Move over, Sweetness. Make a place for Emmitt.
Troy in the locker room, you know, he said that Phil Simms made a beeline for him, you know, after Eddie had made the kick and we had won the game. And Phil was trying to convince Dan Reeves and the staff at that time, if you win the coin toss, let's take the win. Let's not take the ball. Let's get the wind at our back. Let's kick off. Let's play defense. Let's bury him. You know, force a short punt into the wind. So he came running across and he asked Troy. He goes, if you won the toss, what were you going to do? He said, we were taking the win. I knew it. I tried to tell him not to take the ball.
I had a record, you know, prior to Emmitt coming there of 16 touchdowns in one season. When Emmitt broke that, he sent me a football and signed it, which is a class, you know, thing, you know, for him to do. So, I mean, I admired him, you know, as a runner too. He was, you know, a lot like you talk about a Tony Dorsett. Maybe not what you look for as far as size is concerned. Great runner inside and outside. All of the things that Emmitt did were just, you know, incredible.
Dallas Cowboys Deep Blue, presented by Pepsi, was sponsored by Resorts World Bimini, the hidden gem of the Bahamas. Pepsi, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys and the NFL. And by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. Want to tour AT&T Stadium? For more information, call 817-892-TOUR.